So the rather difficult task now lies with Benoit to give us a wrap of this session. Benoit is the co-founder and managing director of Launchworks Co, and he is the other co-author of the platform strategy book and also the co-chair of this event. And I'm happy that I didn't twist my tongue with all the co's here. Benoit, over to you for the closing remarks today.
Thank you very much, Petra. Fascinating panel, as you said, fascinating afternoon, really. And as Laura said at the outset, I mean, that's what Platform Leaders is all about, bringing together thought leaders, academics, practitioners, policymakers to debate, to discuss the future of digital platforms. And collectively, we can contribute to actually unlocking the full potential of these innovative business models for all. Now, summarizing all that was said today in a few minutes is a very difficult exercise, probably impossible, and I'm not sure I can do justice to all the insights of our panelists and moderators. But I'll just share with you some of the salient points I think that I took away from these panels. I'll start with the last panel, the governance panel. Which was very interesting because when you talk about governance, often people think about, oh, this is some obscure discussion at board level about what is allowed and what is not allowed. And that's part of it, and that's important. But in the context of platforms, when you talk about governance, you talk about ecosystem level governance. You talk about how you manage the ecosystem. You talk about the stakeholders with whom you co-create the value and the rules and norms and laws that you need to put in place for that to work in balance. So trust, and all our panelists talked about trust. Trust is absolutely fundamental. And when we work with traditional firms or we advise new platforms, trust is not the initial reflex, but it's critical. And Fred reminded us about the trust architecture, the dreams framework that he has developed for BlaBlaCar, and it's been a very powerful tool. And I loved the intentional integrity approach that Rob talked about, and his book on the topic is excellent, full of great stories about how eBay and Airbnb have managed to create these and to embed ethics really in the DNA of these firms. So trust really at the heart of these platform ecosystems. Now, part of the governance is about the fairness and the fair exchange of value between all the participants. And Sasha Michaud hinted about how Glovo is baking that into its trust processes to make sure that everybody is fairly paid. Now, overall, all these governance principles are critical, and they're linked to regulation in some ways, because these principles could actually, these internal code of conducts could actually be used as maybe the basis upon which regulators can start thinking about the regulation of platforms. So governance is a key building block. I'd like to thank, of course, all the panelists, and of course, Azim Azar, who's masterfully moderated this panel and who is no stranger to tech and platforms. And if you don't follow his Exponential View newsletter, you should, because it's an excellent read. Now, the panel before was about regulation. So regulation is very topical. We keep hearing about the new regulations potentially for platforms. The European Commission has just announced details of its antitrust proceedings against Amazon yesterday. It's about the sharing of data between the marketplace and the e-commerce operations, for example. And the European Commission is about to publish some draft proposed regulations in a couple of weeks' time. So this is probably one of the most fundamental shift in the platform world that we're going to see, and at its best, regulation, of course, can help unlock trust and can enhance competition or preserve competition, stimulate innovation. So we all want that, but I think it was interesting to also listen to Oliver when he highlighted the fact that it's also very important to understand the rules of the game and who is going to be regulated, and what are the principles that will underpin that regulation, what will be allowed, because what we don't want is clearly to create friction and undermine the innovation within the markets. So we had a critical point, and Tom Smith will probably be able to tell us more after he's given his advice, formal advice to the government, and how the regulators, the new regulators, we're going probably to see new regulators, new digital regulators to look after our platforms in the years to come. Now, one thing that I often worry about a little bit, and Professor Michael Jacobides hinted about that, is that in some circles, you've got politics shaping regulation in a way that is probably not as healthy as it should. So it's not the real competition concerns that are driving regulation, but it's political considerations and, dare I say it, in some cases, protectionism, which is probably not what we want to end up with. So thank you also to all the panelists and Lewis Crofts, who did a terrific job at moderating this panel, and I'm sure has got his work cut out for the next few years reporting on the regulatory developments in Brussels. Now, we all started with the impacts panel, and the impacts panel is really the reason why we're here. It shows the importance of platforms in economic and social terms, that importance that is increasing. And these business models are relatively young. I mean, eBay is 25 years old this year, and it's one of the oldest platforms. And we see that platforms are on track, as Laura said, to intermediate probably close to a third of all economic transactions by 2025. And COVID is accelerating that trend. So it was very interesting to see how resilient the platforms have been. I mean, they don't defy gravity, as Joe said. In some sectors, times are tough, but platforms are incredibly resilient, and this resilience also helps the communities they serve. So, only 10, 15 years ago, maybe the same pandemic would have had a far worse impact on many sectors of the economy. So, platforms can really help, and it's not just about product platforms. Libert talked about content and education, edtech as a sector, and how much we're shifting structurally, I believe, towards a world where e-learning and upskilling is going to be done, online, and is going to be part of all our lives. Now, Joe, of course, as an investor, deployed literally hundreds of millions in tech across Europe, and has got lots of platforms in his portfolio. And in some cases, when the firms in his portfolio are not platforms, they are supporting platforms. So Miracle is not itself a platform, it's a software company, but it enables lots of platform businesses, including, and this is a trend we are seeing more and more, traditional firms that are adding a platform to their existing business model. So, and Jennifer, of course, I'd like to thank Jennifer for moderating this panel. She knows a thing or two about digital transformation, and she is editor-in-chief of The Innovator, that is dedicated to digital transformation. Now, I would like to thank, of course, all our panelists, all our moderators, as well as all the people at Launchworks Co who've made this event possible and have worked with us today and in the weeks that led to the event. I'm sure I will forget people, but Petra Young, of course, our Master of Ceremony today, but also Robin, Loki, Justin, Dan, Francois, Richard, and Laure, who was the architect and co-chair of the event as well. Lastly, I'd like to thank Luis Planta, who has illustrated the panels today with talent and humor. And we will see at the end, I will leave you a few minutes with the animation of all the drawings that sum up all these panels. Now, it was great to have everybody, so I'd like to thank everybody who logged in, as well as our sponsor. I mean, we like to keep these events free, so I'd like to thank Google on this occasion for sponsoring the event. And I will leave you with the illustrations from Luis Planta. Fear not, We've got lots of other plans. There is a woman platform leader. There is other events that we are planning. So you will be hearing from us in the days, weeks, and months to come. But in the meantime, I will leave you with Louise Plantin's illustrations. Thank you again, and see you soon.